Hey Frag fam, Corbin here again from Northwest Scent. So ever since I've shown my fragrance collection, of course you guys were all able to see the fragrances I have, I've had quite a few requests to go over a certain house and rank my fragrances. So we are going to be talking about that house today, which is Roja Parfums. So there have been a ton of requests, at least relatively compared to the size of my channel, for ranking my entire Roja Parfums collection, which is a really hard task for me to do because I love all of them and that's why I own them. So if you're interested to see what I have to say about these fragrances and see how I rank them, please stick around. But first, let's roll that intro. Alright, welcome back. So before we get into the video, I do have a couple of things I want to go over really quickly. First is I have 11 fragrances from the house, which is honestly quite a bit, and I never really thought I would have this many from the house, but I really do enjoy them a lot now. They're one of my new favorites. So because of that, because there's 11 fragrances, that's a lot to talk about, and I'm probably not going to go super in depth with any of them just to keep the video on the shorter side. Additionally, the ones that I put towards the back of the list at the 11, 10, 9 spot, whatever, I do not hate them. I own all these fragrances because I enjoy all of them quite a bit, but I was forced to put these in order, so that's just kind of how things are going to go. So with all that out of the way, let's get into the first fragrance. So starting the list off here at the number 11 spot, this is coming from the Ayud line. This is Musk Ayud. And I really do enjoy this fragrance a lot, honestly. Like, it was hard for me to put these in order because I enjoy all of them so much. Unfortunately, basically what I ended up doing was thinking of the fragrances that I would probably wear the least often, and those are the ones that I kind of put towards the back. And that's just, you know, where this one falls. This is honestly a challenging fragrance. I put this in my top 5 seductive and sexy but challenging fragrances video that I did a few weeks ago. And that's exactly what this fragrance is. It is very sensual. It has this like heavy animalic presence to it because there isn't like castoreum or any kind of like animalic note like that, but there is musk in here. It's a very filthy kind of dirty musk. You also get leather in here, adding an animalic touch, and there's oud in here as well. So this has a lot of kind of challenging notes, but it is blended with some citruses at the top in a very light fashion. There is rose in here as well. So this is a spin on the oud rose combo, which we see a ton of those style of fragrances nowadays. Like I said, this one is heavy on the musk, so it's a little bit animalic. You get a little bit of this sweet fruitiness from the citruses. There is a little bit of the sweet powderiness as well coming from some tonka bean, and there is kind of this woody backbone kind of rounding everything out in this fragrance. Nonetheless, it is really elegant, but this is a very situational fragrance. This is something that would be hard to use as a daily driver. So again, here at the number 11 spot from Roja Parfums, this is Musk Ayud. So coming up next here at the number 10 spot, this fragrance is in the Parfum Cologne line. This one is Vetiver. And honestly, this is a really solid vetiver fragrance, especially if you're trying to get into vetiver. You want something that smells very authentic. This is a good one, but again, you have to like vetiver. If you're like completely put off by it, this is not gonna be the fragrance for you. This has some pleasant citruses at the top, so it is kind of vibrant and has this liveliness to it. There is cedar as well as cedar needles, so you get this very green coniferous feel from this fragrance as well, but the vetiver is really front and center. This is just a fantastic, very mature, clean vetiver fragrance because it is supported by those citruses. There's a little bit of this underlying almost mustardy smell coming from some celery seed, which that might sound off-putting, but it smells better than that sound. It does really smell fantastic. It just adds this kind of quirky spiciness to the fragrance almost in a really unique way. So while it is very wearable in my opinion for a vetiver fragrance, it is really unique at the same time. So again, here at the number 10 spot, this is Vetiver Parfum Cologne. Moving right along here to the number 9 spot, this next fragrance is coming from the Gulf collection, which is a collection of Middle Eastern themed fragrances from Roja Parfums. A decent amount of them have unfortunately been discontinued. This one, however, is still in production. Again, from the Gulf collection, this is Qatar. And this is a really unique spin on the oud rose fragrance, which Roja Parfums does have a broad portfolio of oud rose fragrances. What he's done with this one is, instead of using a regular rose note or like Bulgarian rose or Turkish rose, he's actually used Rose de Mai, which is a unique rose note that I forgot where it's grown, but it's only grown during the month of May, and it's supposed to have a very unique scent structure to it. I'm not super familiar with it, so that's all I really have to say about it, but what I can say is the rose in this fragrance is very mellow and tame. It's not like super heavy and powdery and kind of headache inducing. I think it's done really well. The oud here is not dirty at all. adds almost this like leathery touch to the fragrance. There's also some unique sweetness in this fragrance coming from pear, peach, and cotton candy, which I really like that aspect of this fragrance. You even kind of get this fuzziness coming from some cashmere, and there's quite a few spices in this fragrance as well. It's just a really nice take on the Oud Rose DNA, and it's something that smells different. It doesn't smell super basic or run-of-the-mill for an Oud Rose fragrance. So if you're looking for something like that with a little bit more of this fruity sweetness to it and some spiciness, you should really look into Qatar from Roja Parfums. So again, here at the number 9 spot from the Gulf collection, this is Qatar. So coming up next, we have one of the best Oud Rose fragrances that I've ever tried. So if you're on the market for something like that, a really high quality and unique smelling Oud Rose combo, definitely look into this next fragrance. Of course, from the house of Roja Parfums, this is Amber Oud. The infamous Amber Oud. This is definitely one of the flagship fragrances from this house. It's been around since 2012, so you know that being around almost a decade, it sells really well, and it sells for good reason. Like I said, this thing is amazing. So of course, you get oud in here, you get rose, but you get this kind of like ambery, powdery, balsamic feel almost. There is ambergris in this fragrance, which adds kind of the salty marine feel. There is also an amber accord, adding this powdery sweetness. So this actually is kind of named Amber Oud for 2 reasons, for the ambergris, but also the amber accord. You get some fruity notes, like fig in here. There's a little bit of this animalic touch coming from some civet, but it's very tame. This is mostly about the oud as far as kind of the dirtiness in the fragrance, but even as far as oud goes, it's a very clean and wearable oud. Like I said, if you want something that is oudy, but very clean with kind of this jammy rose, a little bit of this balsamic fruitiness, almost like this leathery spiciness as well, with kind of this salty feel coming from the ambergris, you should really look into this fragrance. One of the most wow factor fragrances that I've ever smelled. This is really a statement maker, and it's very long lasting as well. So again, from the house of Roja Parfums, one of the best Oud Rose fragrances that I've ever smelled. This is Amber Oud. So the next fragrance we're going to be talking about at one point was probably my favorite Roja Parfum. The only reason it has shifted down a little bit in place, or honestly quite a bit, is because there's another fragrance from the house that I think smells very similar, but better at the same time. Nonetheless, this thing really is fantastic, and this is one of the best gourmands that I've ever tried. So this one we are talking about, this is SonyATV. Which this is another very, very popular fragrance from the house, and for good reason. This smells absolutely fantastic, and not only that, it is very unique. This is a gourmand, but it's not going after your typical like gourmand styles with like coffee and chocolate and stuff like that, caramel. This is actually trying to smell like a patisserie where they are baking donuts, croissants, bread, whatever. So it's going after more of a like bitter kind of gourmand style, which they definitely have kind of accomplished that here. I do think it is still very sweet, but you do kind of get this bitter quality to it as well coming from the oud. So the oud here, it's not animalic at all. It's very much on this dry, bitter kind of woody side, and it blends beautifully with the cardamom in here, adding the sweetness. There are some fruity notes as well. And honestly, I don't know what he's done with this fragrance, but it really does smell kind of bready and like almost like croissants and donut. It has this buttery feel to it when you smell it, which is very, very hard, I imagine, to accomplish in a fragrance, but he's done it here beautifully. And like I said, this is one of the best gourmands that I've ever tried. I'm not usually a huge fan of gourmands. It's not a genre of fragrance that I like, but this one is done amazingly, and this is one of my favorites. So again, from the house of Roja Parfums, an amazing gourmand. This is SonyATV. So up next here at the number 6 spot, we have, I would say, definitely the most popular fragrance from this house. You see tons of people buy it and sell it. It just gets tons of discussion in general, and for good reason. This is so easy to wear. This is a mass appealing fragrance, I would say, and you could really pull this off in any situation. So of course, from the house of Roja Parfums, this is Elysium, the Parfum version. And man, I agree, this is such an amazing citrusy, fruity fragrance. This is very grapefruit heavy forward, which I've talked about this recently. Grapefruit is my favorite fruity note, or my favorite citrusy note, I should say, but you get lemon in here, bergamot, lime as well. There's apple in here. You even get some black currant, adding kind of this berry quality to the fragrance. There's juniper berries in here, adding kind of the sharpness to it, but it doesn't smell like a toilet bowl cleaner or like super boozy or anything like that. Like I said, just kind of this astringent vibe. There's a little bit of sweetness coming from benzoin and then vanilla, but I would say this definitely gravitates more towards the bitter and dry side. There's kind of this floral quality as well. There's really a ton going on in this fragrance, and it's blended amazingly. One thing for certain though is this is such a high quality citrusy fragrance, such a high quality quality fresh fragrance. If you want something perfect for the warm weather, the extreme high heat, but smells very high quality, blended very well, you have to look into this fragrance. Whether it's this one or the Parfum Cologne, even though the note breakdowns are slightly different, they both smell amazing. I prefer the Parfum, but there's nothing wrong with the Parfum Cologne. And the only reason it's ranking here at the number 6 spot is because there's other genres of fragrance that I gravitate towards more. But if you really like citrusy fragrance, this would probably be your favorite fragrance from this house, absolutely. So again, here at the number 6 spot, an amazing citrusy fresh fragrance. This is Elysium Parfum. So the next fragrance we're going to be talking about is here at the number 5 spot, and this falls in with the barbershop fragrance or fougere style of fragrances, which that is one of my favorite genres. You guys already know that, and within that genre, this is honestly one of the best that I have ever tried. So of course, from the house of Roja Parfums, we are talking about Scandal, and this is the Parfum Cologne version. And the opening on this is absolutely fantastic. If the fragrance in the dry down didn't change as much as it did, and the opening, if it was linear from the opening for the most part, this would easily be in the top 2 or 3 within this list, and this would probably be my favorite barbershop or fougere fragrance, or probably in the top 2 or 3, somewhere in there. I can't say for certain, but unfortunately, in the dry down, it does change a little bit. It loses the appealing aspects. It loses the spiciness. It loses the sweetness. It gets a lot more kind of bitter and shaving cream style, you know, very foamy and soapy, but it does still smell really nice in the dry down. I'm not saying it's bad. I just absolutely love the opening of this fragrance. Now, like I said, it opens sweet and minty. There is like tonka bean in here. There's cardamom adding that sweet side. You do get kind of this soapy style of lavender. Very spicy coming from some cloves, and there's mint in here adding this icy cooling feeling with a little bit of this present kind of minty smell. So it is fantastic. Like I said, the dry down is where it kind of loses that and it becomes less appealing for me, but I still really like this fragrance through and through regardless, and that's why it's here at the number 5 spot. So again, at the number 5 spot, this is Scandal, the Parfum Cologne version. So earlier when I was talking about Sweetie Ayud, I said it smelled absolutely amazing. However, it got knocked down the list a little bit just because there was another fragrance from the house that I thought smelled very similar, but a lot better at the same time. Well, the fragrance we have here at the number 4 spot is that fragrance. So coming from the line, the Parfum de la Nuit line, this is Parfum de la Nuit 3. And as you can see, I have this little tiny, I think it's 7.5 mils. It's a Discovery atomizer, which this juice is so strong, I probably will never go through this. You only need a few sprays to actually get a full wearing out of it. And you know, not only that, this is very expensive as well. So I don't even know if I would ever want to buy the full bottle because it's $1,300 retail. And even if you find it discounted on like Facebook or on a discounter or something like that, it's usually in the $800 or $900 range. So very, very expensive, but it smells absolutely fantastic. So it is similar to Sweetie Ayud. It does kind of have this gourmand quality to it almost. It's buttery, it's sweet, kind of has this bready smell to it, but you get a lot more of the smokiness and the spiciness from this fragrance, and you don't get so much of that bitterness that you got from the oud in that fragrance. And I'm pretty sure there's not even any oud in this fragrance. They've replaced it with incense. There is saffron in here, some spices like cumin and stuff. So you get kind of this leathery feel, spicy, smoky, still very sweet and buttery. Just an amazing, well-rounded fragrance. There's a little bit of this floral touch as well, and a little bit of citruses, I believe. So a lot going on in this fragrance. It smells fantastic. Like I said, I don't think I can recommend it to people at $1,300 for the bottle, and I don't even think I would pay the discounted price, but it really does smell great, and that's why it's here at the number 4 spot. So again, at the number 4 spot, coming from the house of Roja Parfums, this is Parfum de la Nuit 3. So here at the number 3 spot, we have a fragrance that made my top 10 summer niche list for 2021. This is currently my favorite fresh fragrance from the house of Roja Parfums. So we are talking about Oligarch, which, as you can see, I have another travel atomizer of this one. This is actually relatively affordable for the house. I think you can find full bottles sub 300 if you look in the right place, which I'm absolutely going to jump on that when I see a deal next. So if you look at the note breakdown for this one, you get a lot of similarities to Elysium. It has all the citruses, you get the apple, you get the blackcurrant, you even get the juniper berries that are in Elysium. So it has a lot of those same fresh qualities, but what they've done with this one is they've added lavender, adding a nice aromatic touch. You get tonka bean in here. I think there's benzoin, so you get this sweet kind of fizzy side to it as well. There is a little bit of leather as well, but to me it's not super detectable. What I mostly get from this is all of those fruity, citrusy notes, the lavender, and like I said, those sweeter notes. So this is sweeter, a little bit denser than Elysium, but I think it just works a lot better. I think you can wear this in the high heat, just like Elysium, but all the aspects of Elysium have been improved in this fragrance, in my opinion. And no, they do not smell the exact same. This is definitely a standalone fragrance, but it's kind of in the same realm as Elysium. And like I said, I think this one just smells a lot better. So again, my summer pick from the house of Roja Parfums, this is Oligarch. So the next fragrance, which is here at the number 2 spot, this is my most worn fragrance from the house of Roja Parfums. So this one I believe is an exclusive. This is called a Midsummer Dream. You guys need to try this fragrance, I'm not kidding. This is at the price point, probably the best bang for your buck from the house. This is, I think, $350 retail, and you can find it discounted for under $300, and it comes in 100 ml. So your price point is fantastic relative for the house, and it is one of the best smelling fragrances from the house. To me, this smells like spring in a bottle. Don't look at the name, A Midsummer Dream, and think this is a bright, citrusy, light, summery fragrance. This has some denser qualities to it. Coming from LME, there's cardamom in here, there's also benzoin, so you get some sweet resins with kind of a fizzy touch. You do get some kind of greener and lighter fruity aspects as well. There's citruses in here, there's oak moss, I think there's cedar wood. There's a little bit of this kind of buttery orris root as well. This literally just smells like spring in a bottle. I can see myself in the woods in the springtime. It's a warm day, but not super hot, and there's wildlife all around you, and it's just very calming and relaxing. That's what this fragrance evokes in my head. Again, a fantastic price proposition for the house, and one of my favorites from the house as well. So again, from the house of Roja Parfums, this is a Midsummer Dream. Okay guys, we have finally made it here to the number 1 spot. So this fragrance is my favorite from the house of Roja Parfums, but not only that, if I had to throw out my entire fragrance collection and only keep 10 bottles, this would be in those 10 bottles. Need I say more? We are talking about Creation E, also known as Enigma, and this is the Parfum version. And you guys knew that this was going to be here at the number 1 spot. I've said it before that this is my favorite fragrance from the house. This is perfect in my opinion. I would not have them change a thing if they could with the fragrance. And regardless of which version you get, whether it be the Parfum Cologne, the Eau de Parfum, which is discontinued, so you probably won't find it anymore, or this version, regardless, they're all amazing. I've owned actually all 3 of them at one point. The Parfum I think is the best for me. It's the richest and it is the longest lasting. The Parfum Cologne is actually my second favorite though. I got really good longevity, and I liked the citrusy side that it had as well. But the Parfum is the one for me. And basically what this fragrance is to me is if you envision a gentleman sitting in a whiskey club drinking a whiskey and coke and then maybe smoking a cigar, he's dressed really nicely, you know, that's what this fragrance is. It has this kind of sweet tobacco to it, a little bit smoky. There is a boozy quality to it as well. The benzoin and the vanilla with the bergamot in the top work together to give you this Coca-Cola effect with this fizziness, very sparkly, very sweet. I mean, this fragrance is so transportive. It makes you really envision a scenario, at least it does to me, and it just smells great on top of that. Absolutely my favorite fragrance from the house. I don't think I could ever stop loving this enough. And again, if you guys have not tried this fragrance already, get your hands on it, try a sample. You really need to check this one out. So my absolute favorite fragrance from the house of Roja Parfums, that is Creation E Parfum. Well, there you guys go. That was me ranking my entire Roja Parfums collection from my least favorite to my most favorite, which like I said earlier, this was really hard for me to do because I like all of these a ton, but I had to do it for this video and we got it done. So if you guys enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate dropping a like just to show your support, and then that way more people can see my videos on YouTube. Additionally, if you want to write a comment, maybe just letting me know your thoughts, as well as some new video ideas or topics, that would be great too. And since you're down there doing all that stuff, if you have not already, if you could hit the subscribe button and then the bell notification, that would be amazing. That way you stay up to date on new videos whenever they get released going forward. But with all that out of the way, that's all I really have for you guys today. So I hope you have a good one. Stay healthy, stay wealthy, and smell great.